What's going on, everybody? It's Richard Koberger here, the Blue Collar Nerd. Happy Howard Days. You know what time it is. Let's jump in. So first, under the highlight section, we have an inventory note. So you can now turn on the only replenish max setting, even when the enable negative quantity setting is off. So when the only replenish max setting is on, technicians cannot order any more materials than what is typically stocked on their trucks. This setting was available before, but you had to enable negative inventory in order to use it, and that is no longer the case. And if you're looking for it, this setting is found under Settings, Inventory, Configuration, and then under the Inventory tab. Next, under Job Booking and Contact Experience, we have customer PO numbers on the job booking screen. So you can now add the customer identification number, aka the customer PO number, during the job booking process. If you add the customer's purchase order number on the screen, then you tie the customer's invoice to their own personal record keeping system. Now I do want to clarify here that the PO number that you would input in this box, it is not a ServiceTitan PO number, it is a PO number that the customer has. This is mainly for ServiceTitan customers who do a lot of commercial work. So if you do commercial, then you probably understand the value of this. If you don't do commercial, then don't worry about it, this one's not for you. But if this is something you need, then do note that you do need to go into your settings and toggle it on before that customer PO number box will show up on the call booking screen. And that setting is found under Settings and Job Booking. All right, next under Jobs and Projects, we have projects shown on location records. So the projects table currently found on customer profiles is now also shown on location records. This means you no longer have to sort through multiple projects for multiple locations on the customer page. Next, under Pricebook, we have a new Save and Add Another button. So if you're adding multiple items to your price book, when you're adding one, you'll now have this button that says Save and Add Another so that you can quickly get into the next page to add a new item. Next, under Purchasing, we have the ability to update job numbers on open purchase orders. So you can now update the job number on an open purchase order, which allows you to move a PO that was incorrectly assigned instead of having to cancel and create a new purchase order. A couple of things I want to point out about this one. You can only update that job number if the invoice of the associated job is in the pending or sent status. It won't let you change it if the invoice has been posted. I also want to point out that you could actually do this before this release, but the difference is that before you weren't able to do it if the PO was attached to a project, and now that doesn't matter anymore. You can still do it even if the PO is attached to a project. All right, next under the nude section of these notes.
New section.
What's that?
New.
Sorry guys, I've just been informed it's the new section, so everybody put your clothes back on. We have Price Insights for Pricebook Pro. So this feature is really cool. This feature takes your Pricebook items and shows you what the average price is for that item in your region. That way you know where your price falls in comparison to the average in your area. And yes, this feature is Pricebook Pro only. It has to be, because with Pricebook Pro you have standardized Pricebook items with standardized codes. And without that, it would be really hard to compare apples to apples. We wouldn't know which task in your Pricebook compares to which task in somebody else's. All right, moving on to the improvement section of these notes under the accounting subsection. There is a new permission that allows technicians out in the field using ServiceTitan Mobile to change an invoice's tax zone. This lets technicians assign the proper tax zone to a service location when the work determines the tax rate rather than the location. And one thing to note here is that this permission will not be available if you have the integration with Avalara or Washington sales tax also enabled. All right, next under estimates, we have two notes. Both of them are pretty big and they kind of go together. So we have the mobile estimates redesign that affects everybody, and we have the HVAC pack, which of course mostly affects companies who do HVAC work. So starting with the mobile estimates redesign. Here's what mobile estimates look like now in the presentation view. You can see that each estimate has a picture associated with it. We can also show these info boxes for things like energy savings, rebates, and membership savings. Some of those are tied to the HVAC pack. We'll get to that in a minute. Another nice enhancement is that when you are drilled in looking at one particular estimate, you can now navigate between the estimates from this top menu here without having to back out and choose a separate estimate. So you have these forward and back buttons. And next is the HVAC pack, which is kind of a plugin that goes with the new estimate redesign. So with this, you get three things. You get a SEER energy savings calculator. So this lets you calculate the potential energy savings of a new system versus the customer's current one so that you can show the full value. There's a new rebates field. So if you have any rebates going on in your area, maybe the power company offers rebates for certain SEERs or something like that, you can input those here so that they show up for the customer and again, just builds more value. And we have a load calculator. And I just want to put out a disclaimer on the load calculator. This is not a full manual J. So the only way to get a truly verifiably accurate result is to do a full manual J calculation. Now there are plans to put a full manual J calculator in ServiceTitan in the future, but not yet. That's not this. Now the HVAC pack is currently in open beta, so if you would like to try it out, talk to your CSM and they can enable it for you. Just keep in mind that by doing so, you are signing up for a beta. All right, next under inventory, we have the ability to adjust the weighted average cost of inventory items. So with the new weighted average costing method, you can calculate an item's weighted average cost based on purchasing behavior and use it on invoices for more accurate job costing. So this one is also really cool. This gives you the option to use the weighted average of the actual prices that you're paying for materials versus whatever the material price is set to for the vendor in your price book. So let's say for a particular material, your vendor price in your price book is set to $100, but you've actually been paying on average $125. Well, then it's going to use $125 for the cost on any invoices with that material, and so it's going to be using that price for any of your job costing. This is a generally accepted accounting principle and will overall give you more accurate job costing. If this is something you want to use, then it is a setting that you have to enable, and that setting is found under Settings, Inventory, and Configuration. Another thing to note about this is that if you do enable it, it will hide the material cost from technicians. And basically the reason behind that is that now that the material cost is so dynamic, constantly changing with the average, it becomes a concern that if the technician isn't constantly updating their price book, that their material costs will be out of date. Next, changes to unit cost of serialized items on bills transfer to invoice line items. So basically, if you are using serialized inventory, when you eventually add a specific serialized unit to an invoice, it is going to use the price that you actually paid for that specific piece of equipment instead of the price in the price book. That way you are getting truly accurate job costing. All right, next under jobs and projects, we have new status and manager fields on the project page. So the project page has been updated to make it easier to keep track of projects. You can now add a project status and a project manager to a project. As far as the statuses go, there are default statuses provided. However, you can add custom sub-statuses to each of the default statuses in your settings. And that's going to give you more information as to where you are with that project at a glance. And you can also assign a project manager, and you're able to filter by that project manager when using search. Next, under Marketing Pro, we have updates to the audience building filters. When building an audience for your campaign, you now can target specific audiences by using the job status filter. So maybe you had a campaign that you specifically wanted to send to customers who had canceled jobs or jobs on hold. Next, under Pricebook, we have the Edit and View button redesign. This is one that I suggested, so I am super happy to see it in these notes. So you know how when looking at the price book, you need to toggle between the view mode and the edit mode if you want to make changes? Well, previously that was a drop-down menu, meaning it took 2 clicks to switch between view and edit mode. You had to click to open the drop-down and then click to make your selection. But now it's been changed to a toggle switch, so it only takes 1 click. And that's why they call me One Click Rick. Next, under purchasing, you can now see information about returns in ServiceTitan Mobile. You can now see more detailed information about returns in the mobile app, so you can provide additional information to vendors while conducting returns without needing to call the office. We also have a new guardrail to prevent inventory transactions from being created in a closed period. So if you set a minimum posting date for a business unit, which is done under Settings, Operations, and Business Units, well then returns, adjustments, purchase orders, and receipts can't be created unless the date of the inventory transaction is on or after the minimum posting date. This prevents you from creating transactions during a closed period, which causes errors when you attempt to export those transactions. Next, and this one isn't actually on the release notes, but I wanted to point it out anyway because I have seen it specifically requested in the Masterminds group. On the master pay file report, there is now a new column called Gross Pay Calculation. And this is going to give you a breakdown of how ServiceTitan calculated that gross pay from configurable payroll. Shout out to Steve Cossette. I know you had requested this about a month ago, and now here it is. And finally, under fixes, we have a forms and media note. So previously, when you clicked on a photo that was uploaded to ServiceTitan, it wouldn't necessarily fit inside of the frame. Sometimes you'd have to scroll to see the entire picture. But now that is no longer the case. When you click to open up a photo, it's now going to fit inside of the frame so you can see the entire photo without having to scroll. And shout out to Fred Graber on this one. I know this is an issue that you had pointed out in the past. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Be sure to hit like if you liked the video and found it valuable. Be sure to subscribe to ServiceTitan's YouTube channel if you've not done that already. Hit that bell icon so that YouTube notifies you anytime we upload a new video. And leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think I should make a video on next. Remember that your engagement through likes, comments, and subscriber numbers are the ways in which my success is measured. Appreciate it. Peace.